What if everything you thought you knew about one of music's biggest moguls was a carefully crafted lie? The Sean Diddy Combs trial has exposed shocking revelations that have left the entire industry speechless. But here's what the mainstream media isn't telling you about what's really happening in that courtroom right now. Today, I'm breaking down the most explosive testimony, the questions everyone's afraid to ask, and the disturbing details that explain why this isn't just another celebrity scandal. It's potentially the case that could bring down an entire system of power and silence. Before we dive in, I need to warn you, what you're about to hear is disturbing. It will change how you see not just Diddy, but the entire entertainment industry. And once you know, you can't unknow it. Stay until the end because I'll be revealing the 5 most shocking moments from Cassie's testimony that mainstream outlets are deliberately downplaying, including what she said happened after the cameras stopped rolling. Disclaimer: this content presents information about an ongoing legal case. All individuals are presumed innocent until proven guilty in a court of law. This content is based on publicly available information, court documents, and expert analysis as of May 2025. Let's get into it. Imagine being 19 years old, new to the industry, and suddenly under the complete control of one of music's most powerful figures. That was Cassie Ventura's reality when she met Diddy. On one side, the glamorous red carpets, the music videos, the apparent power couple status. On the other, what Cassie described in court this week as a living nightmare of control, abuse, and exploitation. Let me take you inside that courtroom, where for 4 grueling days, Cassie had to relive the most traumatic moments of her life, while the man she accuses of abusing her sat just feet away. Question 1. What did Cassie really say about the freak-offs that shocked the courtroom? The term freak-offs sounds almost playful, doesn't it? But what Cassie described was anything but. According to her sworn testimony, these were orchestrated sexual encounters where Diddy would hire male sex workers to engage in acts with women, including herself, while he directed, recorded, and sometimes participated. The courtroom fell completely silent when Cassie described how she would leave her body during these events, a trauma response known as dissociation. She testified, "I wasn't there. I trained myself to go somewhere else in my mind while my body was just there." But here's what makes this truly disturbing, and what many reports are glossing over. Cassie testified that her participation wasn't voluntary. She described threats, manipulation, and sometimes physical violence if she refused. A courtroom observer told me the jury's reaction was visible. Several members appeared visibly disturbed, with one juror repeatedly shaking her head during this testimony. Question 2. How did Cassie respond when confronted with her own text messages that seemed to contradict her claims? In what many consider the most dramatic moment of the trial so far, Diddy's defense team presented text messages that, on the surface, seemed to show Cassie willingly discussing or even initiating sexual encounters. Imagine having your private messages read aloud in court, taken completely out of context, while the world watches. That's what Cassie faced during cross-examination. When asked about a text where she wrote she wanted their encounter to be uncontrollable, Cassie didn't flinch. Her response silenced the courtroom. "I was trying to survive. I said what I needed to say to avoid his anger. When you've been controlled for years, you learn to anticipate what will keep you safe." Domestic violence experts call this survival compliance, when victims appear to participate in or even initiate interactions with their abusers as a protective mechanism. But the defense wasn't done. They had more messages, more questions designed to undermine her credibility. What happened next reveals volumes about both Cassie's resilience and the defense's strategy. Question 3. Why did Cassie stay with Diddy for nearly 11 years if the abuse was occurring? It's the question many of you are asking in the comments of every video about this trial. Why didn't she just leave? Cassie addressed this directly in what courtroom observers described as one of the most powerful moments of her testimony. She outlined 5 specific factors that kept her trapped. 1. Professional control. "He controlled my career completely. One call from him and I would never work in music again." 2. Financial dependence. "I had nothing of my own. My housing, my car, my clothes, everything came from him." 3. Blackmail. "He had recordings of the freak-offs that he threatened to send to my family to release publicly." 4. Cycle of abuse. "There were good periods that gave me hope. He would be loving, apologetic, promise it would never happen again." 5. Fear. I had seen what he was capable of. I was terrified of what would happen if I tried to leave. Domestic violence experts who have commented on the case confirm these are classic factors that trap victims in abusive relationships, especially when there's a significant power imbalance. Have you ever been in a situation where you felt trapped, where leaving seemed impossible? Share your thoughts in the comments below. Question 4. What was the bombshell statement about the $20 million settlement that left the courtroom stunned? The defense strategy has been clear from day one. Paint Cassie as someone motivated by money, pointing repeatedly to her quick settlement of a civil lawsuit against Diddy in November 2023, reportedly for around $20 million. But on May 16th, when pressed about this settlement, Cassie delivered a statement so powerful that courtroom reporters described audible gasps. I would give back every penny of that settlement if it meant I could undo what happened to me. If it meant I could erase the trauma of those freak-offs and the years of abuse. The money doesn't fix what happened. A courtroom observer told me that during this statement, 2 jurors were visibly emotional, and even some members of Diddy's family appeared uncomfortable. But the cross-examination was far from over. What happened next would test Cassie's composure in ways nobody expected. 4 days. That's how long Cassie Ventura was on the witness stand, with much of that time under intense cross-examination by Diddy's high-powered legal team. While the prosecution painted a picture of abuse and exploitation, the defense had one clear strategy: destroy Cassie's credibility by any means necessary. Question 5. What were the most aggressive tactics used by Diddy's lawyers during cross-examination? Diddy's defense team, led by Mark Agnifilo, who previously represented convicted sex trafficker Keith Raniere, employed several tactics that legal experts have described as brutal and designed to intimidate. First, they forced Cassie to read aloud explicit text messages she had sent to Diddy years ago, a tactic that domestic violence advocates have criticized as public humiliation and revictimization. Second, they repeatedly questioned her about her drug use, suggesting her memory couldn't be trusted, despite the fact that Cassie testified Diddy often provided and encouraged the drug use. Third, they presented a carefully curated timeline that highlighted inconsistencies in her recollection of events, a common issue for trauma survivors, according to experts. Imagine having to recall, with perfect precision, traumatic events from years ago while the person you accuse of traumatizing you watches from across the room. A legal analyst who's been in the courtroom every day told me, the defense is walking a dangerous line. They need to challenge her credibility, but if they appear too aggressive, they risk alienating the jury, especially the women. Question 6. What happened when Cassie was questioned about the hotel surveillance video? In May 2024, surveillance footage emerged showing Diddy physically assaulting Cassie in a hotel hallway in 2016. This video, which corroborated part of her previous allegations, became a critical turning point in public perception. When the defense questioned Cassie about this video, suggesting it showed a mutual altercation rather than an assault, her response was devastating in its simplicity. The video speaks for itself. He chased me down a hallway. He threw me to the ground. He kicked me while I was down. That's not mutual. That's assault. Legal experts note that the existence of this video significantly strengthens the prosecution's case, providing rare visual evidence that supports Cassie's testimony about physical abuse. The video has been viewed millions of times online. If you've seen it, what was your reaction? Share your thoughts in the comments below. Question 7. What new information came from Don Richard's testimony that supports Cassie's claims? Don Richard, former member of Danity Kane and Diddy Dirty Money, took the stand immediately following Cassie's testimony, and what she revealed has been severely underreported. Richard testified that she witnessed Diddy's controlling behavior firsthand, describing incidents where he monitored Cassie's movements and communications, erupted in rage when Cassie spoke to other men, isolated Cassie from friends and support systems, exhibited dramatic mood swings that kept everyone walking on eggshells. While Richard stated she never personally witnessed physical violence, she described an incident where she saw Cassie with what appeared to be a bruise that had been covered with makeup, something Cassie asked her not to mention to anyone. A source close to the case told me that Richard's testimony was particularly damaging because she worked closely with Diddy for years and has no apparent motive to lie. The legal charges in this case have confused many people. Sex trafficking, racketeering, These terms might seem disconnected from what we're hearing about in testimony. Let me break down what these charges actually mean and why they're potentially more serious than most people realize. Question 8. How does what Cassie described qualify as sex trafficking? When most people hear sex trafficking, they imagine strangers being transported across borders. But legally, it's much broader. Federal sex trafficking laws cover any situation where someone recruits, entices, harbors, or maintains a person to engage in commercial sex acts through force, fraud, or coercion. The prosecution's argument is that the freak-offs constitute commercial sex acts because 1. Diddy paid male sex workers to participate. 2. He allegedly used coercion to force women, including Cassie, to participate. 3. He maintained control over these women through various means. Legal experts who have analyzed the case note that this application of sex trafficking laws to situations involving intimate partners represents an evolving area of prosecution, one that could set precedents for future cases. If convicted on the sex trafficking charges alone, Diddy faces a minimum of 15 years in prison and potentially life imprisonment. Question 9. What makes this a RICO case, and why is that significant? RICO, the Racketeer Influenced and Corrupt Organizations Act, was originally created to take down organized crime families. So why is it being used here? Because the prosecution isn't just alleging isolated incidents. They're claiming Diddy operated what amounts to a criminal enterprise, using his business, staff, and resources to facilitate and cover up alleged crimes. According to court filings, this alleged enterprise included staff members who arranged the freak-offs, security personnel who prevented people from leaving, assistants who handled NDAs and payments, business resources used to maintain control and silence. This isn't just about one man's alleged actions. It's about an entire system that potentially enabled and protected those actions for decades. Former federal prosecutors have noted that RICO charges are particularly powerful because they allow prosecutors to present evidence of a pattern of behavior over time, rather than focusing on isolated incidents. As promised at the beginning, I'm now going to reveal the 5 most shocking moments from the trial that mainstream media outlets are either downplaying or ignoring completely. These details provide crucial context for understanding the full scope of what's being alleged, and why this case could have implications far beyond Diddy himself. Revelation 1. The alleged surveillance system. According to testimony that's received surprisingly little coverage, Cassie claimed Diddy maintained an extensive surveillance system in his homes and studios. She testified that cameras monitored nearly every room, that her phone was regularly checked, and that she believed her movements were tracked even when she wasn't with him. This level of surveillance and control goes beyond typical jealousy or possessiveness. It represents a systematic approach to maintaining power and control. Revelation 2. The industry enablers. Perhaps the most disturbing aspect of Cassie's testimony was her description of how many industry figures allegedly knew about or witnessed concerning behavior, yet did nothing. She testified that incidents occurred at industry events, in recording studios, and in settings where others were present. Yet the silence was deafening. Cultural critics have noted that this aspect of the case raises profound questions about complicity in the entertainment industry. Who knew, who helped, who looked the other way, and why? Revelation 3. The alleged threats to family members. In testimony that received minimal coverage, Cassie described how threats allegedly extended beyond her to her family members. She testified that Diddy would remind her that he knew where her parents lived, and that her silence protected not just herself, but her family. This type of threat represents a particularly insidious form of control, one that exploits a victim's love for others to maintain compliance. Revelation 4. The role of NDAs and legal intimidation. Court filings and testimony have highlighted the extensive use of non-disclosure agreements and legal intimidation to allegedly maintain silence. Cassie testified that she was presented with NDAs after incidents, that legal consequences for speaking out were repeatedly emphasized, and that Diddy's legal team was portrayed as capable of destroying anyone who crossed him. This aspect of the case has sparked important conversations about how NDAs have been used across industries to silence victims and protect powerful figures. Revelation 5. The alleged pattern beyond Cassie. While Cassie is the central witness, court filings suggest the prosecution has evidence of a pattern of similar behavior involving other women. Without naming individuals, prosecutors have indicated that additional witnesses may testify about experiences that echo elements of Cassie's testimony, suggesting this wasn't isolated but potentially systematic. Legal analysts note that establishing a pattern is crucial for both the sex trafficking and racketeering charges, as both require proving more than isolated incidents. As this trial continues to unfold, we're witnessing not just the potential downfall of a music mogul, but a possible reckoning for an industry that has long operated with minimal accountability. The testimony we've examined today, from the disturbing details of the freak-offs to the alleged systems of control and intimidation, paints a picture of abuse of power that extends far beyond one relationship. This case raises profound questions about power, accountability, and the systems that have long protected certain individuals from consequences for their actions. I want to hear from you. What aspect of this case has surprised you the most? Do you think this trial will lead to broader changes in the music industry? Share your thoughts in the comments below. If you found this breakdown informative, please hit that like button and share this video. Subscribe for ongoing coverage as this landmark trial continues to unfold. In my next video, I'll be examining the potential industry fallout as more details emerge, including which celebrities might be distancing themselves from Diddy and why. If you found this breakdown informative, please hit that like button and share this video. Subscribe for ongoing coverage as this landmark trial continues to unfold. In my next video, I'll be examining the potential industry fallout as more details emerge, including which celebrities might be distancing themselves from Diddy and why. Remember that while this trial has generated significant public interest, at its core are serious allegations of harm to real people. As we discuss and analyze these events, it's important to maintain respect for the judicial process and for those who have come forward with their experiences. Thank you for watching this comprehensive breakdown of the Diddy trial. I'm Ava, and I'll see you in the next video.